Dun, dun. I think we are live. All right. Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. So today we are,
We're gonna delve into apocalypse.
yeah, we're gonna chat about. Okay. So we're both kind of tackling a subject of the end of days,
Yes.
and so
What does it actually feel like?
yeah, what does it mean? What does it do? Has humanity encountered these circumstances before? Like today, I want to chat about the polar shift. Let me get centered in screen. The polar shift. Right now, as we speak, the North Pole is moving at a alarming rate. So this story I'm gonna read right now comes from let me throw it up on the screen. Boop 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 boop. I gotta set it up real quick. Sorry guys.
What does it mean if if the pole shifts dramatically? Are we just talking climate?
Well, I believe I don't know. I don't know. There's all sorts of theories about it. We know that it has shifted previously, and okay, I did a deep dive on the studies on this, and there's an Australian scientific group that found out that 42,000 years ago, I believe it was, the pole shifted. They found that out by looking at tree rings, and it coincides with the Great Die-Off.
Oh, geez.
And then, of course, you've got the nominal story is that it happens every 300 to 700,000 years, and they all claim that we're way overdue. We're like at the far limit of the 700,000 years. And so if it does flip, it would throw one it depends on how long it takes to flip. So like right now.
Yeah, is there like a Rubicon where it gets to a point and then it goes blop?
Yeah. And does the Earth spin on that axis?
And it just throws us all off into space?
Well, like let's say right now we spin on an axis like yonder, right?
Right?
Let's say it flips to halfway. It goes from Mexico through to Korea somewhere. And then we spin the other way. Would we become, I mean, that if it spins on the polar axis, on the magnetic polar axis, then the sun's here and the earth would be spinning like this around it. So it would
freeze.
It would freeze half the planet half the year and cook it nuclear the other half. And then there would be like 2 months where you'd have a temperate middle.
Oh boy.
And so that's just a crazy thought. So I don't know. I don't know what would happen. We're not sure. Okay. None of the Googling I have done over this and watching of videos made about this says that if the poles flip, it would change that to our spinning axis. But if it flips fast where it has an interruption, it might do away with our magnetic force field that we have against the solar rays.
Great.
So
we'd be sucked into it.
Well, no, it'd blast us. We'd have all sorts of cancers show up. It'd kill all of our electronics. It'd be like an EMP going off, destroy electronics. It would throw animal life, like birds that migrate, certain animals that migrate that are real sensitive to north-south directional poles. They might suddenly get lost or die or fall out of the sky. Remember in Mexico last month, there was all those birds that crashed into the sidewalk. And then last year, remember all those birds crashed into that Walmart parking lot.
Right,
like
right.
Thousands of them just boom, crashed into the ground and died. So could our poles be experiencing some kind of interruption that caused that? Or was there maybe just a bird of prey that was flying above and got too close, so they dropped down? I don't know.
Ooh.
But right now, and this story I'm going to read comes from 2021. And from what I heard here, research, it's moving even faster now. Okay. This one is written by End Times Prophecy. I've been saying for years that the accelerating movement of the magnetic North Pole from Canada to Russia. So right now, the magnetic North Pole sits kind of, it's at the North Pole, where Santa is, but it's kind of on the Canada side of the true North Pole, which is, geographical, which it's a little bit of ways. Last year, it was moving 65 miles per year.
Ooh.
Towards Russia. And I read a report that right now it's moving 5 miles a day. So it's got thousands of miles to go, but it is moving. So
At 5 miles a day, thousands of miles is fast.
well, yeah, that would be done in a matter of 10 years or so.
That's insane.
But to think about that, it is moving towards Russia. So is there? I don't think that the Earth has been tilting different towards the sun, has it?
I don't know.
We would notice that. Now, I may be wrong on that 5 miles a day. I read like 2 reports that said that, and neither of them were like scientific people. But because, I'm looking up disaster porn here. I did dig into the science, and that's where it gets real dry. And the Australian group and the scientists don't agree on this either.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like there's lava rocks that they find that when they cut them open and put them under a microscope, they see little flecks of iron that are going this way through all the rocks until you look deep enough, and then they're going this way.
Uh-oh.
And they're not opposing each other. And then there's also tests where people take different type of magnetic core rocks and they test, how a magnet has a positive side and a negative side.
Mm-hmm.
They go back far enough into digging up natural magnets and the poles
Are swapped.
So they have I guess a color shift or a shape. They look different, and you can measure which pole is which, but they react opposite when they use them around other magnets. I watched a whole video on it. It was very dry, but kind of weird and interesting. So our magnetic force field is caused by the molten iron that surrounds the core underneath the mantle of the earth. So in between where we stand on Terra, for lack of a better word, and the hard core, there's a molten layer, like in the Jawbreaker. It's the orange part underneath the white part before the other white part. It's molten, and it spins around that core, and it causes a dynamo effect by all those metals coming in contact and moving past each other. Causes an electromagnetic reaction that causes this force field, and that force field is what blocks a lot of solar radiation and a lot of stuff like that. There are some weak points on Earth right now. You've got the Atlantic Anomaly. I am going to pull that up real quick. Probably spelled it wrong. Okay. South Atlantic Anomaly. It is it's an area where the Earth's inner Van Allen radiation belt comes closest to the Earth's surface, dipping down to an altitude of 200 kilometers. And in this picture, this is it right here. Okay, so it kind of surrounds like South America and then dips in there. From what I read about it, this anomaly, the Van Allen radiation belt is the radiation on the outside of that magnetosphere.
Okay.
So that means that is a weak spot where the magnetosphere has a divot in it. And because of that divot, a lot of aircraft and satellites shut off electronics as it goes through that. Like satellites, as they're coming around the Earth,
They just shut off?
they'll power it down. So that is a weak point. Now, could that be because the Earth's maybe the mantle, the outer white part of the jawbreaker is a little thicker there, so the magnetosphere doesn't
It's not
doesn't
encapsulated.
make it as strong there. You know, it's got more earth to go through, more rock and stuff. But yeah, it's so there is kind of a weak spot. This is like the hole in the ozone they told us about from Hairspray.
Uh-huh.
But this is on the magnetic defense that the Earth has.
My gosh.
So these are things that are actually going on. You know, so the North Pole is moving. Don't quote me on one report I read said 35 miles a day. But don't quote me on either of those, but it is moving.
The fact that it's moving is scary enough.
Yeah, and we've known, you know, that it has been moving for a long time. It has like a natural wobble, but it seems to be moving faster. That is a fast move. If it's moving 65 miles in a year, you know, that's on that low end from the reports.
And if the movement is increasing, there has to be a group in the scientific community that are trying to figure out, like, does that mean that without something to stop it, that it will continue increase?
How do you stop that?
You can't.
It's not like it's a stick in the ground, like it's a red and white.
But I mean, just the laws of physics say that if it's increasing in speed, without a force pressing against it, it's going to continue to move, but also increase.
What force can you use to stop it?
There isn't.
Do we get like a great big U-shaped magnet
and pull it back the other direction? No,
set it on the ground closer to Canada and fight it. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just wondering if they are anticipating future increases in speed.
And that's the thing; it has increased year to year over the last decade. It gets faster and faster. So what happens if that pull, because the way our magnetosphere looks when you pull up a picture of it, it looks like it kind of looks like it has maybe some dead areas in it. When I open this up, it kind of looks like it has dead areas. So right now on the screen, folks, I'm showing a picture of it. So we got the sun on the right, and then we have the earth, and the earth has it looks like plumes that represent the magnetosphere. And it looks like coming out of the North and South Pole, there might be some dead areas. Like those are areas that maybe don't offer the same protection. But the sun hits kind of just off the edge of center of the strong parts, right?
Uh-huh.
What if we were to take this area right here
and tilt it towards the sun
and turn it sideways some more? Would it allow in more solar radiation? Would it destroy more electronics?
I think the biggest thing outside of electronics is agriculture.
Oh yeah.
If it suddenly, or even over the course of 10 years, had a big shift, and now,
well, insects, agriculture relies on insects. Well, it should. I mean, we have surpassed that by killing all the insects. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
What would the bees do?
it's
And
insane.
then all the cancer rates. I mean, we'd be like living in fallout with people with like full body cancers, skin cancer through the roof. And if that radiation gets inside a weak point, will it bounce around inside the atmosphere and surround the earth regardless of where you are?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go through some other scenarios. What if we have an immediate pole shift?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what if there is a Rubicon where if it gets to this certain point,
It just boop.
boop,
And what if the poles
It-
flip to abnormal places? You know, and do we spin on that axis, or like if the poles flip, does that cause that molten orange part of the jawbreaker to suddenly
Shift.
spin that direction? And would that slowly force the earth to, you know, maybe over a week, a year, 100 years, start to spin on that axis that is new? Or would the earth pull that molten to where it matched the earth spin? Would it be a mixture of both? Would it tear apart the plates? Would something like that cause an immediate shift to where we have worldwide earthquakes?
what happens to the water, the tides? Because
Yeah.
the tides are actually just a bubble of water that kind of sloshes around the earth. They're not.
Uh-huh.
So a big move, would that then take the water over dry land?
Maybe. Or would it make water on your beachfront property go away?
Yeah.
And then you've got dead coral front property. Would it cause the plates to shift? Would, you know, all these areas like where we are, we have
Suddenly become polar.
We have a huge fracture in the earth running along the Wasatch. You've got California, which is notorious. Would it suddenly, the plates start rubbing against each other and mass earthquakes, kind of ripping existing neighborhoods that are on fault lines in half? Gas line explosions, sewage spraying everywhere, dogs and cats living together in harmony. It could be pandemonium.
Wow.
And the thing that, so we do know that in about 700,000 years ago, there was one that caused a great die-off. That caused, you know, like something like 10% of the Earth's fauna to disappear.
What would that look like?
What would that look like? Could it bring on an ice age?
I think that the temperature change would have to be dramatic if the poles shifted. And maybe it would, I mean, obviously it would be dramatic everywhere, and in some places they would become more temperate, and in other places they would become more polar. But what we have to recognize is they're ill prepared for sudden freeze over.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
know, if, say, the Sun Belt was suddenly -5, there's no time to prepare for the food shortages, for the mass exodus, there's just no time to prepare. And those who couldn't,
true.
who couldn't just get out would just be part of a large die-off. They would just succumb to the new norm.
But could anyone really get out?
Well, exactly.
I mean, this is...
because it would take a long time with a big shift. The really polar areas that may now see tons of sun, would take a decade
That's
to
if
make it farm worthy.
that's if the spin started happening
Yeah.
in that direction. What if the spin stayed where it was, but we had a couple of blank spots that a couple times a year come around to face the sun? And then you'd have all this nuclear blast that just has an open hole into our atmosphere. It would burn off that part. So you might have a temperate areas that you could live in, but that would have us allocated to
Tiny little spaces.
whatever side on opposite sides of the earth, hoping that those opposite sides aren't water, or then we have to become fish people.
Water world.
Water world. We have to get gills and build boats out of garbage. It's a whole to do. And the clothes look itchy.
They do.
They look very itchy. I mean, burlap sacks are notoriously uncomfortable against the skin.
Yeah. It's a scary thought because one, you can't stop it.
No.
And
Can you really even plan for
and
it?
two, you cannot plan for it because you don't know.
If you
We
knew-
don't know.
If you knew where it was going, you might be able to plan for it. And when it was going to happen.
Yeah,
But
like
you'd have to know where it was going.
Sunday, April 6th, 2050.
But if you don't know where it's going, what do you do?
And I think that it's such a grand idea. I think that's part of the reason that the scientific community can't all come together and make, have some agreements on this pole shift idea or theory.
And of course, they might just be
That
busy
you-
arguing other things.
And it's too big to wrap your head around.
And what does it look like? Is the North and South Pole weaker? Now, here's another thing. We do know that up to 40,000 years ago, the South Pole was temperate and a rainforest,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's also reports for a future show of a pyramid down there. But anyways, we do know that it was temperate and rainforest. Could that be could it become the polar lower shelf because of that 42,000 year ago
Shift.
pole shift that maybe stripped away warm water currents that went near the South Pole because it changed and then the water changed?
Yeah, a pole shift would change everything. And even if it took 10 years to do it,
Would that be worse?
that is
in a way?
not enough time. Even if we started right this second,
I mean, Elon Musk could be fine, and those people he
just
liked
be on
that he
Mars.
shoots home. But I mean, could that possibly be worse as overall humanity staring at that slow 10-year die-off?
Ooh.
Like
I've always said, listen,
well,
if there's nuclear war, you know where you'll find me? Not in a bunker.
yeah,
I'll be standing out there. Give it to me.
yeah.
Because I want to be incinerated very quickly. I want it over fast.
You don't want to crawl out of the hole.
I don't.
Do radio-free wasteland.
No, I don't.
But that's the question. If you're staring at 10 years, I mean, say you're a young lady, would you, and you got pregnant? I mean, that sounds like a worst case scenario, knowing you're going to raise a child that has zero opportunity and you know it.
Oh boy.
Or, I mean, yeah, what would the possibilities be?
There's no way to plan for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way to plan for that. And maybe that's why scientists are just not studying it.
Could be,
Because-
but they look at asteroids.
I mean,
That's another one. We need to do a show on what if an asteroid hits. But this polar shift, the reason I like this subject is because from the data that the scientists give, it seems like it's happening.
yes.
That the pole is moving towards Russia,
Yes.
and it's moving kind of fast.
way faster than I would like.
Mm-hmm.
Like we may see
But
it.
how-
We may see something drastic in our lifetime.
Now we do know that there's a wobble on the axis of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We know there's like a, what is it, a 6-degree wobble every like 800 years or something like that. I don't know the direct math, everyone. I'm sorry. Remember, you're listening to just a moron who's talking smack. But we do know there's a wobble. And we record that by looking at Polaris and gauging its movement through the sky over, centuries. But that is on the hard pole, like the geographic pole, but
Not the magnetic
not
pole.
the magnetic
Yeah.
pole.
They're
now,
different.
What if the geographic pole flips?
Oh,
That might almost be worse,
yeah.
because it would. I mean, a sudden change on the axis and the tilt of the Earth, would that tear us apart? The mantle, the
Yeah.
initial white.
How
part of
fragile is the planet
would that
with
just,
something that drastic?
Would that just rock all of the continents? Would it make all of the continental plates just kind of slam into each other and slam under each other? Because a lot of times the plates, one goes under and one climbs up.
Uh-huh.
So what does that look like? Is that how Pangea, that ancient supercontinent that the Earth used to have, is that how it got separated?
Is that what broke it apart?
Was it a polar shift that broke it apart?
It would have to have been something similar, something really dramatic.
Or it could have been a mass temperature change on the planet.
Yeah.
Now, what if the Earth is, like some of the ancient religions believed, Gaia, a living being, and the reason the pole is shifting is because Gaia is getting pissed off at how we're living on it.
There it is.
Solved it.
It's always humans.
I've seen Captain Planet.
It's always humans' fault.
I've seen. All right, few comments. Now, for some reason, the comments aren't pulling up on our, so I got to read them off my phone. Don't forget the black ooze in Vegas. What's the black ooze in Vegas? Black ooze in Vegas. This is coming up. Thank you, King.
Black ooze? Coming out of a faucet.
Oh, snap. Our house about 20 years old in Southeast Henderson.
We've got family that lives in Henderson.
Yes, we do. Why are you doing this? In Southeast Henderson, it has no water conditioning system, but according to inspection, due to close proximity to Lake Mead pipes, appliances are in relatively good shape, so that hasn't been a critical issue here. However, I've seen black viscous ooze a couple of times come out of our bathroom faucets that caused us to quit drinking from those. Looked like black mold to me. Already planning on demoing the entire plumbing. Ooh, let's see if there's a picture of it. Image.
Oh, demons. There it is.
It all comes up as demons, yeah. I want to see if someone has a...
What you need is an exorcism. That's what y'all need.
Young priest and an old priest. Where is it? Black wing rings. I want to see some video of it coming out. Could you imagine if you're in the shower taking a nice hot one and then all of a sudden it
black ooze.
It like burps. And then all of a sudden it just sprays you like black ooze, like a newborn baby. Oh man.
Ooh.
The 1,000-year-old stone that broke in China.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, in Japan that held the nine-tailed fox.
I wonder how that's going.
Oh, I think we can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, don't look directly into the light, folks.
Oh my my gosh.
Oh, and don't forget that the moon is coming closer to Earth, and in the Bible, that is a sign of the end of times. And petulance and disease and war. None of that's going on. We don't need to. I still can't not believe that we're in the year 2022. I remember when I was a child in the early 90s, we used to talk about what it would be like in the year 2000. Now that year is long gone. It cuts out. Oh, it makes you think.
We're old, King.
Yeah.
It's happening.
We were teenagers in the 90s. Matter of fact, I was getting out of the army in the 90s. It's moving and bringing death to us all. The Rubicon is like the 2012 movie. That was that one with the guy off of Say Anything, right?
I don't know.
What was his name? He was like a limo driver that ended up stealing a private jet with this kid and all that stuff as the world came apart. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I may need to learn to drive a limo.
Or a jet.
That famous Bill Murray quote, Ghostbusters already happening. That's right. The dogs and cats living together. Actually, there was a black rain goo that came out. Sorry, not ooze. Oh, man. Could you imagine? Like, even
Nope.
if it was raining outside and slime started falling like on Nickelodeon.
Nope. Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Right now, we are in the green horseman of the apocalypse. The green horseman is petulance, right? Isn't that what it is?
I believe so.
He's petulance or disease or something. And we kind of are. But yeah, the North Pole is moving. And it seems to be accelerating. What if it takes a minute to get up to speed? Right now, It's still in first gear, still easing the clutch out.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just trying to understand how magnets work, their velocity does increase.
But this is, I don't know. This is just.
Again, spend zero time beyond this show thinking about it because you can't change it. I mean, if it's coming.
And if you do learn how to change it right now, thank you.
Yeah. Elon, quit trying to leave the planet. Stop the poles.
Yeah. Now, you know why Mars is a dead planet?
Why?
Because it's juicy core in the middle. Not in the middle, but the thing
juicy,
under the first, the orange part of the jawbreaker isn't molten anymore and isn't moving. It stopped.
What caused it to stop?
They think it's just the natural cooling of the planet. I think. Don't quote me, guys. Seriously. But it stopped being molten and moving, which stopped making that magnetic force field, which then the sun rays blasted its atmosphere off.
Why would you want to go there?
Home, Betsy.
Oh, he's just trying to get home. I forget.
Yeah, it's, there's big head. There's lots of Disney movies about going home. He's just fulfilling his.
Just trying to get home.
Him and his whatever princess and R2D2 his son and the new kid. I forget the name, but it wasn't normal. Also,
Exashe 12 is his son's name.
Yeah, but he's got a daughter now too. Did you know that?
Yeah, just had a daughter.
Her name is like Beelzebub or something. I can't remember. But anyways, I'm sure it's calm and very, you definitely want to go to the park when she's a toddler and yell at her.
Exodark Sidriel. Exodark. I don't know how you say it.
Now, I want you to picture. You're at the park. She's on the swing set. A little bit of back and forth action, right? And she's kind of scooching her butt off. And so you're sitting on the bench as you do at the park, sitting there, stroller next to you, watching her. Exodark Sidriel, be careful.
And Exa
Uh-huh.
Means the ability to perform 1 quintillion floating point operations per second.
Yep.
And it's Galadriel.
Galadriel is an angel.
Yeah.
Galadriel, I think, is how you say it.
Yeah.
AEL.
Yeah. But it's spelled, he's spelling it Sidereal. The A and E are one
Or
letter.
Sidriel, Galasidriel.
Yeah, Galasidriel.
Yeah, this sounds like an angel name. You got Michael and Gabriel. The AEL biblically means angel.
Yeah, and his others is Exashe 12.
Exashe 12.
Listen.
How do you spell that, though? It wasn't like AEX hyphen.
Yeah, it's
squiggly mark.
XAEA-12.
Yeah, yeah.
What the heck?
R2D2 and C3PO.
Yes.
I dig it. But yeah, so, I mean, the polls are shifting. It's happening. We got a little side note to talk about some news for a second. And then Betsy has a story. And then I kind of want to talk about, where's that at? No.
You've got 55 tabs open at the top.
I know. It's crazy. But I kind of want to talk.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to finish out the show talking about some more pandemic stuff.
Ay.
But yeah, the world is insane. Insane. All right. Chinese researchers are creating robot nannies to nurture babies in artificial wombs.
Make it absolutely stop.
But this is how they make the metaverse tie in to the future births. Like, seriously, we've seen this documentary.
They're literally adding to my subject, which is population collapse, because robots, although are great contributors, they do not use anything. They're not good purchasers.
What if robots became purchasers?
Yeah, like what are you going to buy?
Researchers in China have developed a robotic artificial intelligence system to care for embryos as they grow in an artificial womb.
Embryos of what? Of humans?
Peoples. Yeah. Test them out on like rabbits first. One, always replaced, guaranteed. According to The Independent, the robotic nanny is already nurturing several animal fetuses. The researchers who published their findings in the Journal of Biomedical Engineering, makes me wonder if some of these scientists are going to spell the end for us, said that they intend to develop technology that could enable parents to grow a baby in a lab, eliminating the need for women to fall pregnant themselves.
We are creating an entirely new human species that is going to be so disconnected from one another because there's a lot that happens in the womb, in an actual womb, that you just cannot recreate.
Babies are going to be raised to adulthood and then introduced to their community.
That's insane.
Then we're going to turn ashen gray, all our hair fall out, our eyes will turn
get really big.
shape.
Yep.
Genitals will disappear. They said the robot intends to optimize and improve the systems for in vitro embryo culture, while also adding they wanted to create an online monitoring system designed for long-term culture of embryos. You jump on your app and check in on your embryo. According to the research, the system also allows embryos to be nurtured more effectively than in a natural womb. So I remember I was Michio Kaku, you know, that guy, the Chinese guy with kind of long hair that's on all the science space shows.
Yeah.
He talked about in the future they're going to have toilets that are going to analyze your deuces and tell you how you're doing. Like right before you flush the toilet, go eat more fiber, whatever, right? Colonoscopy next Tuesday. It'll do whatever. But anyways,
Oh, no.
so how long before they have an app for a phone? Like you get pregnant and they inject something into the amniotic fluid. They have like a RFID. They poke a needle in you and bloop.
Little microchip.
Yeah, and it
swims around in the fluid.
It floats around in there and takes readings and gives you real-time info on your infant, on your fetus, your embryo, your baby growing inside you. And then you'll have an app on your phone. You'll just pop it up and you can, show it off to your friends. Look, there's what the baby's doing right now. And it'll have a little microphone so it can play Mozart, and we'll have Genius Babies, and it'll take readings and
we got to quit
listen
messing.
to the heartbeat.
We got to quit messing with this kind of stuff because we never get it right.
It seems like we skipped that step and we're going right to the Matrix.
Yeah.
We skipped the part where we get more in tune and maybe have
There are valuable lessons that a woman learns
and an
infant learns
And
while
a father.
it's in utero, and a father learns
Yep.
while the infant is in utero, that will absolutely be skipped over. What we're going to have is a generation of kids who have no connection to their parents. None. Because
What about parents that have no connection to their kids?
that's what I'm saying. The parents having no connection to their kids is terrible, but it's so much worse. The idea that these children will grow up completely disconnected because that super valuable learning curve has been eliminated.
Oh yeah.
Like we're that lazy? We've reached the pinnacle of homerdom?
But Betsy, having babies is hard. I don't know if you're aware of this, Betsy.
Yeah.
Having babies is hard. It's not like you haven't had 5.
I know. That's what I'm saying. But there are lessons. There are not just lessons, but there are things that are passed onto the fetus.
Yeah.
Immunities to things, all kinds of things.
That's another question, like the natural immunity that the fetus gets from the mother and also continues to get during breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Does that go away?
Oh, robot breastfeeders.
How long before we have a robot that has like 2 metal legs and like metal
udders,
like metal shovel arms? They're like shovel arms that they lay a nappy blanket over. And then it's just a great big boob with C-3PO's head out the top. Just one great big rubber boob.
We got to quit messing with human stuff.
And then they've got to test out different nipples because how babies get picky when you first move them to the bottle and the binky.
Yes.
They all like different sizes, I guess, small, medium, large.
Well, and that's another thing. If you don't actually carry the child, you don't actually produce breast milk. And although we would
That's why you have the robot boob.
We would like to think that formula replaces it. It in fact does not.
That's a boob bots.
Do you
and
know?
Then how many dudes that are creepy
that if you're breastfeeding,
go on to Amazon and buy a boob bot for their house? And so you go into a dude's house, he's bachelor for a little too long. He's like 7 or 8 of them that they hop around like those little wind up things, and
they look like something off of Toy Story out of Sid's bedroom.
It's just a boob.
So when you're breastfeeding, if your infant gets sick, your body recognizes that and changes the breast milk.
Yeah, it produces antigens in the breast milk. It aids in that.
You can't get that from formula. We're going to have sickly infants.
Maybe the
and
boob
ill-prepared parents.
What if the boob bot can tell?
But what, it takes a blood test every day? I mean,
Maybe, or another RFID chip that's,
I can't.
or
This is how the Greys were made.
or the boob bot, along with the toilet, reads a diaper.
Oh my gosh.
So it takes the diaper off and shovels around in it for a second, gives it a sniff.
I can't.
Needs more fiber.
Quit messing with humans.
It's amazing that we fought through cavemandom and all that stuff to get here to erase ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thought.
Yeah. So my story today
Okay. Betsy's story.
is just that. We're going to talk population. I know that in some circles, primarily, those who, are pro-Earth and humans are killing the Earth and all
what
of
do
those
they call
things.
it? What do they call it? What's the name of that organization that wants humans to kill themselves?
I don't know.
Anyways, I'll remember it in a minute.
What we have to recognize is that population increase is actually a positive thing, or at least stability.
Yeah.
Because population decline or a reduction in the actual humans that occupy this planet has really, really horrible ramifications.
Yeah, who takes care of the elderly?
Well,
The elderly, right now in our current system, require replacement.
correct.
They require someone to. They pass on some wealth, but their day-to-day is sustained by the children
young.
they have.
Yes, by the young. And what we have now is the oldest median range ever recorded.
Yeah, older people.
So we have, for instance, Japan, which was kind of, you still kind of look at Japan and think, oh, they've got a really young civilization. They, in fact, don't.
Mm-hmm.
Their median age just 30 years ago was 21. It is now 39.
Mm.
So, and China.
Yeah, that one-child policy.
China's median age is 37.
And how many of those oopsie were having a second time to get a government forced abortion were girls.
So what we're finding right now is the population shift is there are more females that occupy the planet than males. However,
but that's kind of
because
historically humans have always rode I think it was like a 52 to 54% ratio,
right,
because childbirth is hard, and it is prior to modern medicine, it was a nominal killer of birthing age women. It was the deadliest thing most women encountered in those ages. So I think nature's answer was to produce more females because the species wants to survive.
Yeah, to kind of outweigh those odds. But because the median age is increasing, what we have are a ton of people who are not of childbearing age. So
you mean a ton of people that are past a childbearing age without children.
And that's the second part. So the growth rate accelerated after about the 1800s to a peak of 2.9% annually. We have now declined as of 2021 to 1.05. So we're not even replacing
ourselves
because really you need to be above a 2.5 to consider it a replacement, because it would be mother and father and then the child. So if mother and father have one child, they've only replaced one of themselves.
Yep.
For instance, in Russia, right now, it was reported last year that there are 1 million more people dying per year than birth.
Ooh.
So it's declining at this astronomical rate.
Man, Bill Gates gotta be happy.
So it's forcing this low fertility rate, kind of based on demographics and other things. But demographics is the biggest contributor,
Mm-hmm.
because women over 40 have a really hard time bearing children.
Yeah.
It was 1967, 1968. The average female began her family at the age of 21 and had 5.3 children.
Mm-hmm.
As of last year, the average female doesn't begin her family until the age of 32 and has 1.4 children. So that shift in that short amount of time, we could recognize that short term, okay, there we won't have to worry about food shortages and things like that. However,
But you do have to worry about food shortages because remember, it's also people who make the food.
It's the young generation that do all the innovation and the hard manual labor.
Mm-hmm.
So in the short term, it's not a big deal. But you get to where we are now, and we have this huge aging population and very few innovators and very few manual labor. So we have, actually, in the year 2030, we have every baby boomer, everyone will be of retirement age.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we have this mass exodus, there's
And
two.
that's also the largest child population there was, because people came back from, giving it to Hitler, and they were a little bit randy when they got back, let's say.
Yes. So you add that. Just consider that for a second. If a third of our workforce exits, first of all, monetarily, the younger generations are going to be enslaved with their care. Literally enslaved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Add to that the fact that we're now living way longer.
One way or another, whether we're enslaved through inflation or through mandatory time compensation,
even
through
if it's
labor.
Voluntary, even if it's completely voluntary, the whole brunt of their care is going to be on the younger generation. And if it were 1-to-1, easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's 1-to-11.
Oh.
1-to-11. So for everyone who is still in the workforce,
So you're saying
there will be 11.
Cuomo was right. That's what I'm hearing.
Cuomo. What a dirtbag.
Yeah. Was it Cuomo, Wolf, Whitmer?
Yeah.
And what's the other cat's name? But anyways, okay.
So for every one of us still being productive in the workforce, paying our taxes, we will be caring for 11 seniors who now have a longer life expectancy than ever in the history of humankind.
A greater expectation of their twilight years.
Yes.
All right, scientists, I know you're busy making the baby robots. Can we make some old people robots?
So
same thing, just make them a little hardier, a little bigger, able to deal with larger diapers, bigger feeding implements.
So there are a lot of countries that are kind of trying to stave this off by putting into place robotic measures, mechanical measures to fill those spots. The issue with that is these robots that reside inside these big warehouses making all of the things are not consumers.
No.
So we will have, the demand will go down so low for these products that there won't be a need for the robot.
Yeah,
and what we know about the aging population is they're not big consumers either. They're not buying vehicles the way that the younger generations do.
Well, the baby boomers are different. The baby boomers are the most extravagant, and I'm not talking bad about baby boomers. We both were raised by them and everything else. And I'm definitely not, when I say these things, I'm not talking about our father, but they are the most extravagant twilight livers that the world's ever seen. They travel more. They have all of the wealth.
So imagine being in that position, finally making it to that position, and there's no workforce to provide that for you.
Yeah, yeah. They all talk about, well, people talk about, well, we've got to make a sacrifice because we stumbled into this. But it's not just the sacrifice. It's taking a step back in evolution. Like, we've got to learn to eat bugs and,
yeah,
a
lot of this aging population works in consumer driven areas like agriculture and manufacturing. And if, say, tomorrow, or I don't know, 2030, 30% of the entire workforce just pop smoke, not only would they have the expectation of this great retirement that they've worked so hard for, there's nothing to buy.
There's nothing being made.
Because there's not enough people to make it. So you add to that, it's like this soup, this big pot of soup. So you add longer mortality. So we're living longer, much longer. You add, now there's a lot of reasons that go into women choosing to start families later. The biggest one is education.
Yeah, education. Every time education is introduced into a population, the birth rate drops.
Yes. And that's...
But it never drops below replacement.
Yeah, but it is now.
But it's below replacement.
And a lot of that has to do with this mass movement of people from the country into the cities. Because the societal norms are different. In the country, you're surrounded by family, you create family.
Well,
they're a commodity.
You also have more area.
Yes. So, and children are a commodity in a farming setting.
Oh, yeah.
In the city, you're in tight spaces. The drive is different. And the family size, the societal norm in cities, the family size is 1. That's the societal norm. And what we know, especially we saw it in China with their 1-child rule. When they increased it to 2, they had a little jump, but the societal norm had already been changed.
Yeah.
So
and China's also done 2 things. One, they've started taking select cities and forcing people back into the country, which will probably change that. And China has also played with the idea of having a 2-child policy where, now I don't know how you're going to enforce that.
You're required.
But you're required to try. How do you enforce that? I don't know. Does a government official come over? It's Tuesday night. Make it happen.
So the problem China is facing is pretty indicative of what's coming to everywhere except for Africa. Africa may, they're poised to become 5 of the largest countries in the world are going to be in Africa.
Well, and you know how we shipped all of our manufacturing to China about 60 years ago.
Yeah.
China about 12 years ago started doing that with Africa.
Yeah.
So,
but the problem with China is, because that 1-child rule went into effect, it changed the societal norms. It's a freight train. They can't turn it around. So even if they made it mandatory for you to have 2 children, they don't have enough childbearing females
Mm-hmm.
to shift the tides.
Yeah, and that's also, even after that, there's a 20-year
Oh, yeah.
wait time.
Yeah.
And that's a 20-year of having some pretty hard economic times where traditionally children don't fare very well. Wait time.
Yeah. So turning around population collapse, getting it started, turns out it's pretty easy. Just put it on the TV a couple of times, talk about, they've kind of made it egocentric to have small families.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
It's hip.
it's hip.
Mm-hmm.
So that all you've got to do is just put that societal norm out there,
Mm-hmm.
educate the women, and then these mass
So what you're saying is
movements.
we just got to hold the women down.
It shifts everything. It shifts everything.
It does, yeah.
And not because they're women, but because we're the bearer of the children.
Mm-hmm.
If men bore the children and we educated you, we would see the same population decline.
No, you wouldn't. Men are much more responsible and hardy.
First of all, if men bore the
there
children,
would be
none.
No children. Homosexuality would be strictly the only thing on the menu then. Well, and then we've also got other things coming out of Japan, like they've got electronic girlfriends, like a girlfriend on your cell phone.
It's because there are no women to date. These men in Japan and China live at home well into their 50s and 60s.
And they've quit. They've given up on
yes.
on all that. But women have as well.
Yeah.
And it's almost like something happened in their culture, and I don't know enough of what. And I don't think it's the same thing that happened in ours. In ours, no offense anyone, but it seemed like feminism kind of
screwed everything up.
Ran to the fences a little bit. Couple of good ideas, and then they just went wild. But over there, something happened in their culture where there wasn't an incentive to
there's no
pair
motivation.
bond.
Yeah.
And so they stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got apartments where you literally rent like a pod. Like
it's like a tube.
Yeah, like you rent, like you slide in and you spend your days
couple of outlets
at your coffee house, and you spend your days out and about, and then you just go to your pod and sleep. 2 people can't fit in there. And a lot of that might be part of their population collapse, but also China did a lot of money printing that caused a little bit of inflation, which made their market go wonky. So there was no future for anyone. And we're seeing that here.
Yeah.
Men and women. Men are staying virgins into their late 20s now. Unheard of. But they're staying virgins. And women are staying virgins into their early 20s, which is also unheard of. When prior to that, women's average age of losing their virginity was 17, and men's average age was 15 to 16. And now men are dragging that out another 10 years. And men are checking out of trying to date. And could that be because they don't see a future? They don't see a ladder to climb. So they're just like, I'm just going to do the bare minimum to get through life. And we're seeing that anywhere. Anyone you know that owns a business, ask them, how's it doing when you hire someone?
Yeah.
You can't hire people anymore. They don't want to work. They don't want to sign themselves up to anything long term.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have sex robots invented in Japan. And then what happens then?
Nanny robots and babies being raised in mechanical wombs.
Dogs and cats living together.
So we've got the rise in dependency ratio. That puts a huge economic pressure on the workforce. We also have this crisis in end-of-life care for the elderly because there's not sufficient caregivers. So they're going to age. It may take them a little longer to get to dependency care. But when they get there, right, it used to be in hospitals,
they're going to have
1 to 3. So one nurse for every 3
Mhm.
patients. They're predicting when our baby boomers need dependency care or end of life care, it will be 1 to 22.
Oh, they're going to have to invent the nanny robots for people, for seniors.
So it's this push because we will have to problem solve.
Oh, yeah.
And we can't problem solve by just having more babies.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's not going to get us there in time.
Nope.
So when we do start inventing these machines and robots and things, it actually pushes us further into depopulation. It's just another step. It's a necessary measure, but it's just another step.
So do you have to wait like a century and a half to slowly climb out of it?
Yeah.
You just kind of have to start over.
Yeah. You have to ride through this.
The Great Reset, you'll own nothing and be happy.
Yeah. So another one. Entitlement programs.
Oh.
Who's going to fund that? Money's spent.
Oh, yeah.
Long spent. Who's going to fund those? So all of those baby boomers 10 years from now, when they're retiring, there will not be the workforce.
It's us.
Yes.
We're the ones that are going to lose it all.
To pay into.
And not just that, but our government, ran by baby boomers, is probably going to just inflate our currency. Not that they haven't already, folks. You know that 40% of the money created by the U.S.
ever
was created last year.
I know. Yeah.
So they're just going to inflate the
terrible
currency,
idea.
which is the hidden tax. So they're going to inflate it to pay for their short-term gain right then. And then what, your grandkids are going to be foisted with the bill?
Next one, decline in military strength.
Yeah. Where are you going to get military if there's no people?
Yeah. If for every 2 people, only one's being replaced, 20 years from now, we will have half the military
Historically,
strength.
has this happened in human civilization?
Yes. What we see is the fall of civilizations is generally started by depopulation efforts.
So we're looking at end of the Bronze Age, the collapse of Rome, the collapse of Greece. So we're looking at a global collapse coming up on.
Yeah.
Except for Africa, who's going to climb out of the stew.
And Africa, what we have to recognize is currently, it feels like there's a lot of people on the planet, but currently, just to put this into perspective, every human on the planet could fit in New York City on one floor. Just the bottom layer. We wouldn't even have to stack us into buildings. Just the bottom layer. We could all stand side by side and fit there. So we're not talking. That just puts it in. It feels like a lot of people. There's not really that many people on the planet to begin with. Even if Africa continues to just charge on, gaining speed, they cannot replace what we're losing.
Yeah, but if they can maintain themselves,
they will be the only country left.
They'll be the world superpower.
Yes. So, decline in innovation. Change comes from the young. It does not come from our aging community.
Good point.
Strain on mental health because of it will cause a permanent recession.
Oh, yes.
And then deflation, which will be caused by the aging population. We could use a little deflation, just not recession levels. So if we're just going to look at globally, just globally, Andorra, down. Albania, down. Bosnia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Estonia, Greece, Hungary, all of them down. Year over year in the average annual rate of population change.
So Africa's
They're
holding.
all decreasing with the exception of Africa. And Africa,
what about Mexico?
Down. Africa is increasing at a rate of 2.6, which is just barely
So it's
enough
just
to
barely
replace
holding on.
to replace their people.
India's down too?
India is down.
Oh.
And India used to be where all of the population increase
Yeah,
came from.
India was a place that was ridiculous on. Oh.
Yep. India is down.
Mm.
So Russia is decreasing. They've peaked at their population decrease. They are decreasing the most, 4% year over year.
Russia is?
Russia is.
And that's yeah. Are they being lost to bears and vodka or?
Just not having large families.
Mm. I wonder what caused that in Russia?
I think.
Do you think it was maybe the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1981?
I think
or
that.
I mean 91 when it fully come through?
I think that oftentimes people in power make decisions, war and other things that have long-standing effects on people's desires to create families.
Mm-hmm.
And then they incentivize, oftentimes, smaller families. So I think that in most cases of population decrease, if you get to the chewy chocolate center, it's government.
Yeah, well, ours is government / culture / media. Ours is a lot of stuff. Extinction Rebellion. That's those cats that forgot their name earlier. That want everyone to kill themselves or something weird. Whatever they want to do. I don't know. Perfectly normal, perfectly healthy actions. But yeah, it seems like our culture, it's a big driven thing. All the movies, everyone has one kid, maybe there's a few, but like when was the last time there was a sitcom of a family with like 5 children?
The 60s.
Well, no, they had that one that was a religious family where it ended up that the actor that played the dad was a pedophile. What was that one called? The Heart Girl was on it.
I don't know.
What the heck was it called? The girl off of, was it I Know What You Did Last Summer? But anyways, was it Heart?
So if we look...
Jennifer Love Hewitt. She got her start on that show. It was like Heaven, Seventh Heaven.
Oh, yeah. Seventh Heaven.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's a callback to what, 92, 93, but...
So if we look at Africa, even though they're still increasing, by 2045, they'll be down to, it's predicted, based on their median age and childbearing females, that they'll be below 2%.
So even Africa's going in the drink.
They're just hanging on.
So
they're trending in the wrong direction.
So we're going to have this worldwide collapse. Like a collapse like Atlantis. Back to the Stone Age, kind of reset. I mean, imagine 6 generations from now, people in their loincloths and they've got their spears wandering through New York, wondering what gods built those skyscrapers.
Well,
they'll have no history. They'll just think that'll be the new mythology. The gods walked the earth. They lived in these, angular mountains, and they were, they used to come down and they were our benefactors, and now they're gone. We don't know where they went. Our gods deserted us. We did something.
So it's predicted by 2095 that the global population growth will be 0. We already have some countries. Europe is already negative. They have a negative. Russia, negative.
What about the
growth.
U.S.?
So the U.S. in 1967 was at a population growth of 5.3.
We were getting it on.
We are now at a population growth of 1.2.
Ooh.
We're not even replacing ourselves.
Now, people are leaving cities as we speak.
Yes.
New York lost 2 Congress people, or 3, and California lost 2. And that's people specifically leaving cities and moving to Texas, Florida.
But they're moving to other cities.
Moving to Florida, Texas, not always.
No,
Florida,
but
Texas, Arizona, Idaho, Utah.
percentage-wise, there are 80% more people moving into cities or urban zones than there are moving to the country.
Yeah, and I guess to them, they feel like they're moving to the country if they leave LA and move to, say, Austin or Boise.
Right.
They probably, I'll bet anyone from LA thinks that Salt Lake is, country road, take me home. Seriously.
Yeah. But really,
whereas I look at Salt Lake and I see that as a dystopian nightmare.
But really what they're doing is they're shifting those societal norms to smaller family sizes.
Do you think that might cause them to start breeding though? Like they might, pop out, get their straw hat and their bib overalls and hang on to the pitchfork with Ma and take a goofy picture and then start making babies? Or do you think they just carry on that culture that they had when they lived
I believe that the societal norm goes with them. And even if they did decide, let's have a great big family,
it's too late.
We have to recognize that they're beyond their childbearing years. Or at least most of them.
Well, we do have this story that ties into this that we also need to mention right here.
Yeah.
Half of women don't have children at 30 in record first.
Yep.
This is coming off a Yahoo Life today. So, half of women in England and Wales do not have children by their 30th birthday for the first time since records began, Office for National Statistics figures show. Some 50.1% of women born in 1990, the most recent cohort to reach 30, remained without a child by
this milestone.
Ooh. Yep.
And that's unheard of because in this area, so they break down these population into 6 regions. In this region, a mere 30 years ago, that number was 24. So just
24, they were like, you're getting past your age. You're going to have to become a spinster.
Yeah.
28, you're a spinster. They hand you the wheel that you put the yarn on. I don't know what it's called. What is it called?
Like a loom, a weaving loom or whatever.
Where you spin the wheel and drag it past the needle and whatever. But yeah.
So I think that there's no way to stop this. It's here.
It's honest.
And again,
and we're at that age group where we're gonna definitely feel the brunt.
Necessary measures like robotics and other, self-driving vehicles and things like that will really only stave off because they are not consumers. They're not buying the products that they're making. They don't need pillowcases. They don't need cotton swabs. They don't eat. They don't eat, people.
Well, we're not going to have meat to eat anyway.
They're going to go synthetic.
How many pigs were destroyed during the pandemic because they couldn't sell them? How many chickens? And we're coming into, right now, it's
a population decrease for them as well.
Yeah, but if you don't have an emergency supply of just basic food and materials, you need to get on that. You need to make that a weekly purchase because we're going to soon see bare shelves in the stores.
Yes, because this domino effect is they didn't just kill off a bunch of pigs.
Like 50,
what they did was
000.
They stunted the market's ability to rebound.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A government has proven that nothing can destroy civilization faster than itself.
Yep.
The government proved it the last 2 years where they had these shutdowns and we didn't let you sell stuff and they closed down the mom and pop stores. And yeah, the Walmart and Bezos all got a little bit richer, but what you don't understand is that's still putting a great filter on the market and the supply chain that is unable to uncollapse.
And the last thing that I wanted to cover, because I think that this is something I hadn't considered. A lot of countries are trying to stave this off with immigration.
Yeah.
Bring in the workforce, the young. Bring them in.
England's been doing it for a long time. They did it with Poland first. Now they're doing it with Middle Easterners. We're doing it with Mexico and Canadian comedians.
I understand that there are a lot of people that are against immigration. Just think of this for a moment. A country that has open borders and allows the young working age to come in and assimilate, and it incentivizes them to become a part of that country, will have a much larger working force to be enslaved, thus spreading it out a little more.
Yeah. But then again, Mexico beneath us collapses, and it's right there.
I know.
And if Mexico collapses, we feel that.
And I think it will become...
I think we just need to release wolves. Just get it over with. Let's breed wolves.
Don't need to be fast. I just need to be faster than Grandpa. That's all. I've just got to be a little faster on my feet.
Oh, God.
It's a scary thought.
We're coming up on, we are coming up. This is the pandemic kicked off, not just the pandemic, our culture kicked off, and then the pandemic accelerated a great filter, I think.
And perhaps the introduction of the vid was intended to help stave off what we see coming,
or to
by
accelerate
shortening the lives of the elderly.
Ooh, that's a crazy thought. What if? Oh, that is a crazy thought. What if? Anyways, but you got not just that, but what if this is? What if the people in charge, the Carl Schwab and Bill Gates and all those people, what if they want this to happen because they totally believe that the technology will let them sustain their lifestyle?
I think when you get to a certain...
Like they want a Georgia Guidestone, this bastard.
Yeah.
Just bring it down to 500,000 of, slave workers working for them. They do away with money. Everyone just sends all their production up.
It takes all of the variables out.
Yeah.
They're able to control it better.
You have to apply with the World Health Organization for a license to attempt to have a baby on your Bill Gates plantation, who is the largest arable landholder in the world now.
And he doesn't use it for farming.
No, he does not. It's almost like he bought it so it
wouldn't be used for farming.
And not to mention, our government has, since World War II, paid farmers not to farm.
Yep. Tried to control the market.
It's like we're coming up against the convection of bad governance, of bad
shifting societal
bad
norms.
exceptional people that are negative people, that are negative impacts on society. We're boiling to a head on all this stuff. And
yeah. And it is a freight train.
Yeah.
Those who study these population trends really just say these projections are true, and we know that because we know how many people die each year and how many are born each year, and there is no way to stave this off in any amount of time for us to not feel the pinch.
The party's over.
It's coming.
The
It's
party's over. Man, I wonder. So, when we're wearing loincloths in the future,
Yes.
I'm thinking, okay, if we could get chinchillas, because I think you make loincloths out of chinchillas, turn them around backwards, fur in, because chinchilla fur is just magical.
Don't be mean to chinchillas.
I'll be nice to them while I do it.
See that? She left you. Is he talking mean?
Chinchilla is so soft, though.
It is.
But then again, you have to wash your loincloth in lava dust.
Well, whatever. If the poles shift, there may be a lot of that.
Good point. Good point. It may be coming from the sky. Just kind of lean back and let it fall amongst your chinchilla loincloth. You just got to shake it out once in a while.
Yeah. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, what does the future look like?
We've got to quit trying to control humans. Quit it.
I think we've gone past the Rubicon, Betsy.
We have.
I think we're going to have another reset, like the barbarians are going to have to come in and take over. And
so we created contraception. We encourage abstinence. We've reduced infant mortality, so you don't need to have as many children.
So do you think I need to get out ahead of this and go to the high schools and say abstinence is not the key? And
we've got abortions, adoptions, the status of women is changing, sterilization, one-child, two-child policies, family planning, migration from rural areas to urban areas, these small family role models, immigration policies. Like, they could not have stacked. They couldn't have stacked the deck against us in any more ways.
I'm telling you.
Higher taxation of people who have too many children. War. All of those things decrease population. And all of those things have become societal norms.
We have been in constant war since World War II.
Yes.
Constant.
Yes.
We've been engaged somewhere for something since World War II.
Yep.
It's insane. So, oh, man. Yeah. Radio Free Wasteland?
That's right.
Except
I'm going to be out there
from
taking the full brunt.
From like a busted down old complex with iron poking out, and I'll be doing Smoke Signal podcast. Oh, man. All right. Let's run through a few more comments here. Lots of change before everything the youth have done was considered taboo. Very true. Can't trust no one. Okay. Remember, there's cities underneath New York, Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, Texas, Mexico, mostly all over the world. They're ancient ruins. The elites were trying to hide the truth from us. I've heard that there's cities underneath that are, part of the substructure to running. And then there are some places that have underground cities that they built cities on top of. I'm not sure on everything, but I know here in Utah, Ogden has a little bit of that.
Yeah, we do.
So, and I think that was where they built Ogden on top of an ancient city. But I don't know. I mean, we're looking at these collapses, and I'd love to study collapses. It's one of the most like the Bronze Age collapse is just an interesting thing, where the Hittite princes are writing, or I guess maybe they were governors writing the king saying, they're coming to get us. Please send help now. Please send help now. And then the last they find in the forge, like a chit that has the letter for the king on it, says, never mind, we're gone. Because they used to write it on clay, and then the clay was sent over. Yeah.
Pretty scary stuff.
And then, of course, everyone knows I've got a fetish for Atlantis. King of Huecomundo. Ancient technology more advanced than us. Could be. The government knows and is hiding everything from us. I don't know if you know what's going on with the whole Biden administration, including his son and also the Antichrist himself, Barack Obama. That's a spicy take, King. That is very spicy. Barack Obama is the Antichrist, and he could be. He could be. I do think that he still manages a lot of control over the current administration.
Absolutely.
I do think he does, and I do think that this administration we have is
It's a smokescreen.
not very good. I don't think that they're doing much of benefit for the nation, for society, for anything else. It almost seems like they have they like to pose out a good message and then not deliver. Like leaving Afghanistan was a botched thing. And then also the Ukraine thing. There's a way that we could have easily and a lot cheaper than what we have done and without sanctions made it so that Ukraine would have been a non-target for Russia had we put a little initiative in prior to Russia invading. And we knew it was coming. We knew before the Winter Olympics in China that Russia was going to invade. And if we'd have got out ahead of it, we could have done a lot to stave that off.
I think they wanted them to.
Yeah. Yeah. I
think sometimes the war plan is to have no plan.
Well, I think they want to maintain that enemy with Russia for some odd reason. I mean, even after the Cold War ended, we kept Russia as an enemy, and we mishandled them collapsing when we had a window to go in and make Russia to aid Russia in advancing. We kind of did them dirty, and that's in the historical record. I mean, I don't know. Not that I'm a Russophile. I'm displeased with our government at all turns.
Absolutely.
But yeah. All right. Should we cover the one last thing?
Yes.
Yes.
It's kind of a gross story, but we should cover it anyway.
Kinda. All right. Betsy's running away with this one. Where's it at? Dun, dun, dun.
So you heard in the news about a week ago that anti-abortionist Lauren Handy, that there was a tip given to the DC police.
I heard it came from her father.
I've heard that. I don't know if it's been confirmed, but there was a tip that she had in her possession aborted fetuses.
Yeah, like a box of think
in
Ed
coolers in
Yeah.
her house.
Gein. Yeah, nipple belt.
Oh, I can't imagine under any pretense.
How often do you have to swap the ice out on fetus coolers?
Oh, I don't. I can't imagine under any pretense why she would want to do this.
Okay, here's what I've heard. Is that these were
Burials, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that they were burying these fetuses, but these fetuses were turned over them by whistleblowers in the abortion community, and they were going to give them burials, and they were kind of also gathering them as evidence because some of them were past the legal limit of abortion.
Yeah.
But then again, how do you prove it was an abortion? I don't know. I not that I know enough about abortion, but how do you prove? I mean, does it have wire hanger marks on it, or, how is that proven?
I think it's gross.
Oh yeah, no.
And I really don't care what your stance is on abortion, whether you're for it or against it or just don't care. Collecting human remains.
What if she's really a witch?
What if she's like practicing Palomayambe?
Did she have a lot of black candles in that second drawer?
Well, the latest is now this group collectively is claiming that it took 115 fetuses from a medical waste truck.
Where was this truck at that it had 115 fetuses in it?
Okay.
That doctor's got to have carpal tunnel from all them procedures being done.
What we do know is that abortion is extremely prevalent. That it's generally targeted in the most impoverished neighborhoods.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say that it's targeted. I just think that there is prime opportunity there.
Target-rich environment.
Yes, target-rich environment. Thank you. So it is possible that they collect these over the course of several weeks and then dispose of them. What they're claiming is that they approached the driver and asked the driver of this truck removing the waste from the facility, asked if he would get in trouble if they took one of the boxes. The driver apparently said, "Do you know what's in these boxes?" And the two women from this group that Lauren belongs to told the driver that they would bury the fetuses. So after a second's thought, the driver said, okay, and turned them over. What we have to recognize is that 115 fetuses, depending on maturity level, could fit in a relatively small box.
Yeah, but okay.
But
How
we're
much-
still talking human remains.
How much does a half gestated human baby weigh?
They're approximately size of an orange,
So that might be a 115-pound box.
if that.
Oh,
The idea, did they just bury them all together?
man.
Did they split them out and like count toes? In most abortions, they don't come out whole.
No.
So
I want to change my mind on talking about this subject right now.
this idea is disgusting. And I get it. She's anti-abortion. Do your thing. Carry your picket. Do all those things. Stop short
of
of
taking
collecting fetuses and keeping them in your home.
Yeah, don't take them home.
What in the actual hell?
You could have at least rented a climate-controlled storage unit.
They were in coolers in her house.
Oh.
I don't get it.
Okay, so let's pretend you're her brother. You call her up, ring, ring. Hey, Beth, how are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm good. I'm heading up to the lake this weekend. Can I borrow a cooler? Yeah. And then you find out this cooler may have held people.
It seems like she's dipped into psychopathy.
Yeah, lost her mind. Lost her mind fighting what a lot of people, and myself included, might think is a noble cause, for the life of babies. She's fighting a good fight, but she may have lost her mind a little bit.
I think when you personalize a cause,
Yeah.
you can slip into some form of psychopathy, and I think she has. I think that this is kind of the pinnacle of that. She's done other things in the past, like she pretended to be a person going, and then she barred the door with chairs once she got in, and
for that, didn't they?
and then she kicked the lady inside, and
she may have crossed that Voltaire point, staring too long into the abyss, and the abyss stared back.
I think that's what's happening. I think they should test her mental capabilities.
Yeah, she should pull herself away from this subject. Maybe start fighting for something that won't drive her crazy. Something that's not,
or how about take up macrame?
Ooh, that's where you make the knots to hang the plants, right?
Yeah, take a painting class.
Ooh.
I just think that she has
Get a pet?
Made this her identity, so she personalizes the actions of others to the point of psychopathy.
She could raise chinchillas for the future loincloth army.
She could.
Uh-huh. Small investment, lots of cages, fuzzy little cute animals with little tiny hands. Yeah. They pee at you when they're mad. They're kind of weird animals.
They're nocturnal.
Yeah. They're nocturnal. Sugar gliders are too. They
Mm-hmm.
bark at you.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, thanks for joining.
That's the show. Yeah,
Terrible show.
This one was all about, and like, what do you think? I mean, population collapse versus flipping of the poles. It's coming. It's all right there. They might happen at the same time.
I don't want to experience either, personally.
It's coming.